Hey writers, it's Megan in Author Like a Boss, the Facebook group and the Facebook page. Welcome to my regular Thursday live with the new format. Ella and I are offering you even more in-depth trainings, and we are excited to be giving you the topics ahead of time so you know what we're talking about and you can join us and yeah, let us know what your questions are. So I want to get started with today's topic, which is do one part of the writing process at a time. And I also just want to say, if you're watching this somewhere besides the Author Like a Boss group, make sure you join that group so you can continue learning with us and from us and continue being part of the community. Okie doke, let's see. I'm going to ask is anybody out there? Can you give me a mic check? Can you hear me okay? Am I coming through? And can you let me know, is the sound of my cat fighting with the blinds really loud and distracting? I made the unforgivable mistake of closing the blinds, and Kitty is like, this is not happening. Okay. All right, awesome, Mike. I hope you hear me, but not too much of Kitty. Great to see you. So let's jump right into the topic. No matter what genre you're writing, fiction, nonfiction, any genre within either of those, if you're going to author like a boss, you have to have good focus and strong writing habits, because it's the difference between finishing your book or having a work in progress that stays in progress for an uncomfortably long time, maybe even forever, right? So that's why doing one part of the writing process at a time is so powerfully important. And this whole training is going to be about what that means and how you do it. But I want to let you guys know that there's also, more one-on-one or more, hands-on help available for this. Ella and I run the Author Boss Academy, and this is a place where it's so satisfying for us because we can actually spot when somebody's losing focus or trying to do too many steps at a time, and we're able to step in and help our authors regroup. So if you know you struggle with focus and accountability and you wish you had coaches and community keeping you on task, you should really consider joining us in the Author Boss Academy, so that you can get that feedback and that help when you need it. But today I'm going to be offering you some strategies that you can get started with so you can be working on your own to improve your focus. Okay, so do you struggle with focus? Hey, Lori. Do you guys struggle with focus? We've been asking people questions as they've been joining Author Like a Boss, and one of the questions is, what do you struggle with? What's a challenge with writing? And a lot of people have been saying focus, figuring out how to stay on one task. So I know it is a common issue for writers. It's something I definitely have struggled with. Anybody watching, if that's something you struggle with, go ahead, let us know. Even if you're watching the recording, tell us about your focus issues. I struggle with focus continuously. I'll sit down to do one writing task and hours later realize I've done everything but that task, right? I've added my page numbers. I've looked up some random fact like which birds are native to Massachusetts so I can make that seem believable. I'll have totally reworked a paragraph on page 17, but I still haven't finished that one chapter I was working on. And when that happens, I get mad at myself and I feel like a space case. Do you guys have this experience? On a scale of 1 to 10, who jumps from one task to another and then gets frustrated about losing focus? Let me know how this goes for you. Yeah. Oh God, yes. I would call that 10. Is that a 10, Lori? Yeah. And it feels really awful. Oh, 10, Michelle. Yeah. It feels really awful to lose focus in the first place, and then it feels even worse to feel like I'm being bad, I'm like yelling at myself. Yes, a 10, Cecilia, for you as well. And you often don't know where you need to start. So I totally hear you guys on this. And I'm glad I'm not the only one. Focus is key to a strong writing practice. And today I'm going to walk you through how you can improve your focus. And we're going to cover 3 key things. First, we're going to talk about doing only one type of writing task at a time. And then we're going to talk about using the best kind of thinking for that writing task. And finally, we're going to talk about how to avoid a really sneaky form of procrastination that looks like working, but really isn't. It's really busting your focus. So after you watch this video, you'll know why there's no such thing as multitasking in your writing process. Does that sound good to you guys? Give me a hell yes or an emoji if you're ready to dive into this topic. If you want to know about focus and doing one thing at a time. Isn't it funny how when you say it that way, it sounds so obvious? Do one thing at a time. That's the definition of focus, right? But as writers, it doesn't feel natural. So I'm going to help you make it feel more natural. All right, let's start with the fact that you have to only work on one part of the writing process at a time. And I want to spell this out because it might be the case that you're working on multiple parts of the writing process and not even realizing it. So I want to start with just breaking that down. We call it a writing process because it's got a lot of different steps, right? Nobody can see the process. Like when you look at that book, you're like, oh, this is just one thing, it's like, I can't see the process here, but the process is a lot of different steps and each step requires a different kind of thinking. If you switch back and forth among those types of thinking rapidly, what you end up doing is playing tug of war with your focus. Every time you transition, it actually requires a surge of energy. And you can think of it like when you start your car, it needs more gas, right? Just the action of starting it requires more gas because everything's got to get moving. The same thing is true with your focus. So if you switch among different writing tasks, then you're actually running through more of your fuel, your focus. And you might find you get fatigued more often. I want to put this into a different context because it might be easier to see. So I want you to imagine you're working on a craft project. And there are a couple of steps. You have to draw out shapes. Then you have to cut them. You got like one big piece of paper. You have to cut out the shapes. And then you have to take those shapes and you have to paste them somewhere into a pattern. So can you see that it would be way faster and way easier to do first all your drawing, then all your cutting, and then all of your pasting? Otherwise, you're going to have to keep picking up different tools. You're going to have glue on your hands when you're trying to draw. Your paper's going to get all crinkled from cutting and it'll be hard to draw on. And worse still, you won't be sure that all your shapes fit nicely into your pattern if you've glued them on one by one, right? You'd want to be able to lay them out and make sure your plan worked before you finalize things. Does that analogy make sense? Can you guys see that? Oh, hey, Leah, I'm glad you feel like you jumped in at the perfect time. That's awesome. Can you guys see by analogy is like, oh, yeah. I mean, it adds up. All those moments when you're switching tasks, all that energy you're using when you're switching tasks, can you see how that adds up? And not only takes longer, but it runs out your energy faster. Okay, so think of your writing that way. I'm curious to hear from you guys. Where do you find yourself going back and forth? Are there certain tasks where you find like you're always pinballing between them? Are you always going back and forth between like writing and editing, or editing and revising, or outlining and writing? Do you guys have how does that show up for you? How does that show up for you in going back and forth with your focus? I'd love to hear. It's funny, but in our Author Boss Academy, formerly the All Writers Welcome Academy, I actually have people thanking me for bossing them around, because I'll say something like stop editing and keep drafting, and then it's like, oh, I can see I was going back and forth between these two activities. So as writers, we all need this reminder to stick with one part of the task at a time. So that's the first thing to just really get clear on. Okay, once I know that bopping around among all those different parts of the writing process is not serving me, then I want to know what is the right kind of thinking for each of those tasks, because I want to get totally into it. I want to just be like super focused. I'm doing this one part of the writing process. Okay, so how should I be doing it? Let's go through some of the key pieces of your writing process. And I want to start with outlining. When you're outlining, you're thinking analytically and you're planning. So you want to be seeing that big picture. You want to be thinking about your book as a whole, and you want that like 30,000 foot view looking down so that you can see the plot, how the characters, how everything fits together. When you're outlining, you don't want to get bogged down in the details. You just want to make sure the general shape of things is working. So the best mind frame you can be in for outlining is, okay, I'll figure out the details later. You're the boss, you're the CEO, you are the man or the woman with the plan. You're like, okay, I know this has to go here, and this has to go, and this has to go, and this has to go here. You are the manager. So get into your manager mindset, get into the part of your brain that's really good at seeing the big picture, and stay there. All right. In contrast, when you're drafting chapters, you want to pay attention to the details. You want to paint pictures. You want to show readers what's going on through the sight, sound, smells, and feelings of your characters. You don't want to be worrying about whether you're going somewhere useful at this point. That was a job for your outlining brain. Your drafting brain needs your unbridled creativity. It needs to be in the moment without judgment. You want the words to flow through you and onto the paper like water flowing onto a river, with a momentum all its own, because you've already got those riverbanks guiding it. That's what you set up during your outlining phase. So for drafting, you're going to be able to be in your zone, your flow, your intuitive, creative space, whatever name you have for that feeling of just letting the words go naturally. That's where you want to be. That's very different from your planning mode, right? So now let's talk about revising or editing. When you get to this stage, you'll be carefully considering each word. You'll be weighing your options, and you'll be asking yourself what sounds better. You may even be looking up words or rules of grammar, and you'll be focused on clarifying your thoughts and refining your writing. So the place where a lot of writers lose focus and feel lost is in trying to edit while they draft. Anybody do this? You write, and then you go back and think, no, not that word. You write, and you go, oh my gosh, wait, is that how I use a quotation mark? You write, and you go, oh, that doesn't sound good. This is like the biggest focus killer, time suck ever. This is like if you just change one thing about your writing habits to get better focus, it would be stop editing while you write. Because you might be able to pull off, like outlining and drafting at the same time. It's still not going to be as effective, but editing and writing at the same time, oh my gosh, it's a recipe for disaster. You're going to get fatigued. You're going to lose focus. So, it's for this one simple reason. And it's not surprising when we put it this way, right? Like, are we surprised that our creative, intuitive mind clams up when we start thinking about the rules? No, that makes perfect sense, right? If I have a part of my brain that gives me all these great ideas, when I'm typing and I'm drafting, and I go, oh my goodness, how did I even come up with that? That's such a great idea. I feel like, like divine inspiration is flowing through me. Are we surprised if that shuts off when we start becoming critical of it, right? So it's very clear when we frame it that way that we cannot edit and draft at the same time. All right, so can you hear how each of these is a different kind of thinking? Are you starting to get a sense of what your outlining thinking looks like, what your drafting thinking looks like, what your revising and editing thinking looks like? So give me a response, 1 to 10. Do you feel like you can start to see the difference between how you need to think when you do these different parts of the process? Is that making sense? Oh yeah, I like that big old thumbs up, Dee. Thanks. All right. And what part of what we're doing here is we're giving you permission as well, because I'm going to interject something a little bit here. Multitasking is often a way of us beating ourselves up because we think we're not moving fast enough at a task, right? Multitasking is what we try to do when we're anxious. We're like, oh, I'm not moving fast enough. Time is running out. I should have been farther on this. That's the time when we start multitasking. And so I want to just give you this permission to shift and go, oh, when I'm multitasking, I am actually giving myself less opportunity for focus. So if I do just one thing at a time, I'll do it well. And then, then I will actually meet my deadline. And you guys, this is a key part of your writing process, and it's so key that even though we have tons of courses in the Author Like a Boss Academy to help you with every stage, we give them to you in a particular order and we separate them so that you are focused on just one thing at a time. And the writing portion of the Author Boss Academy, because we have writing and we also have marketing and publishing and all the things you need as an author, but the writing portion gives you specific strategies for each part, right? So we talked a little bit about the kind of thinking you need when you outline, but how do you actually go about outlining? Well, we've got tons of strategies and examples and suggestions for how to go through that process one step at a time. You can find out more about the Academy by PMing me or PMing Ella, or on our website. I will post a link in the comments. We would love to help you get your focus even more by joining the Academy. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so there is a link. All right, so now hopefully you are thinking about how you can do just one part of the writing process at a time. Now it's time to talk about avoiding a really big trap. The really big trap is never leaving that part of the writing process, right? So this is kind of like the flip side. First I said, okay, you have to only do one thing at a time. But the trap there can be, okay, I will just keep researching from now until the end of time. Does anybody get stuck in that trap? You find yourself just like, I've been researching for like months and months and months and months, or I've been revising for years and years and years and years. Let me know in the comments. Do you guys get stuck in one part of the writing process? It's really common. Yes, Trisha's saying. It happens to a lot of writers. So it's a difference between doing something, doing one part at a time and never doing any of the other parts, right? I'm encouraging you to do all these parts at a time, but I still want you to have the space to do them all. So the way to know when you're getting stuck is when you're in one of these modes, but it's no longer serving you. So that might mean you're researching for hours and hours and hours and hours, and all your writing time is eaten up with researching. And for most of us, we're balancing writing with a lot of other things. So it's not okay for one part of my writing process to completely hog my writing time. Or you might find yourself in a never-ending draft that just keeps going. This happens to a lot of writers. The more you write, the more there is to write. It's like that finish line keeps moving farther away. Now I have 80,000 words, but now all of a sudden there are 60,000 more I still need to do. Or you might find yourself revising your draft to death. This one is particularly harmful because if you think of your story like a sweater and you're revising and you're pulling out the threads, before you know it, you could have unraveled your entire story by picking apart every detail. So let me know where you get stuck. Do you find yourself in perpetual planning, doomed drafting, repetitive revising, endless editing? Where do you get stuck? The researching thing keeps me bouncing around until you're exhausted, says Cecilia. Yeah. Leah is saying so much research and world building. Oh, Leah, I'm so glad you brought up world building. In my mind, world building is a type of research. It's researching into your own mind, right? If you're building a world from scratch, maybe you're doing some research about comparable worlds, but even going into your own mind can be a type of research, and it can just hog all the time. Endless editing, Michelle says. Mike is, I don't know what you're quoting, but I love it. The most important thing about finding something out is knowing when to stop. Yeah, and it's so easy to go down a rabbit hole, right? It's like I type one thing on Google and then, 15 hyperlinks later on Wikipedia. I'm like, why am I reading about the world's largest watermelon? I don't know. I started with, how do you cure the hiccups? Okay. So the problem, besides the fact that you're going to get stuck and you're going to get frustrated and you may never finish your work in progress, is that this is a form of procrastination. And so what it's actually doing is really messing with your writing habit. It's not just stopping you from writing this book, but it's actually corrupting your writing habit and your writing focus. So it totally saps your focus and it tricks you into running out the clock on your writing time. And you'll probably stop feeling as confident in your writing craft because you don't experience that good feeling of getting tasks done. Your focus keeps getting watered down. So if your focus is the gasoline in your car, it's like buying the really cheap gas and you run through it more quickly and eventually your engine is all messed up. It's a bad feeling. And the less focus you have, the less you get done. The less you get done, the more your confidence and your focus are depleted. And the more those are depleted, the less you get done. So you guys see how this is a vicious cycle. And again, it's about more than just your current draft. Of course, it stinks to feel stuck in your current book and you just can't move to the next stage of it. But it also really negatively impacts your writing process as a whole. And that's really why one of, I think, the most valuable aspects of the Author Boss Academy is accountability. Yeah, we have all these courses available for you guys, but we're there. We're expecting things of you. And there's no hiding in never-ending procrastination, or researching or revising to death, because you're surrounded by your community and your coaches. And we check in with you during our live weekly group coaching calls, and we give you next steps and tell you how you can take action so that you get out of that stuck loop and you get to where you want to go. And we talk you through those places that are coming up for you. What is your writing process and where are you getting stuck in it? So that we can give you the right mindset, but also the right tool to get back on track with your writing. The best way to avoid this kind of procrastination is to set intentions and to share those intentions. That's where the accountability piece comes in. Know why you're doing what you're doing and exactly what it looks like. And that happens in a lot of ways. That can be by setting deadlines. That can be by setting time limits. I'm researching for 1 hour and I'm going to stop after 1 hour and I'm going to look at what I found. And then I'm going to decide, do I need more information or not? You can stop and evaluate. You can ask other people to hold you accountable in this group. Say, hey, I'm working on this. I could use some accountability. People will check in with you, or in the academy. And it also means use the right tool for the job you're doing. Use the right frame of mind, whether you're outlining or drafting, revising or editing. Is this making sense? Let me know how you guys are feeling about your prospects, about your hopes for regaining your focus. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hopeful do you feel about, yes, okay, I could make some changes and I could get some of my focus back? Let me know if you think this is possible, something you could do. All right, because I'm about to give you an action step. I'm about to tell you something you can do right now to make an impact in your focus. Oh, awesome, Danny, good. I'm glad. 80% hopeful seems pretty darn good to me. All right, so here is an action step. The next time you have writing time, whether it's something you put on your calendar or you are just like, oh, I have some time, I'm going to write. I want you to say out loud what you'll be working on. I want you to name your writing session. And you might say, okay, I'm planning, or I'm researching, I'm drafting, I'm revising, I'm editing, any other part of the process. But I want you to be really clear with yourself and name it. And then the second action is to stick to just that activity. Block off your time. If you go, oh, I have 4 hours, take those 4 hours and divide them up. I'm spending an hour and a half on this. I'm spending an hour on this. Break it up and be really, really clear. You can take this a step further. You can actually grab index cards and you can write things like drafting, revising, editing. And when it is the time, when it's your time to be doing that task, put it up where you can see it so that when your mind starts wandering or you're like tempted to do a Google search for where is that largest watermelon in the world, you're like, nope, drafting, I'm drafting. Okay, right? This is a way of doing a quick course correction for yourself that prevents you from losing your focus And you can do it in a fun, friendly way. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be a police officer to yourself. Write it in bright colors. Another great cue for yourself would be to choose a different type of music or a different song for each part of your writing process, and then cue yourself with that song. Every time I draft, I listen to Elvis Costello, and like, okay, I'm hearing Allison, and I know it's time. I'm draft. I actually couldn't do that. I can't draft to words or songs that have lyrics, but I'm listening to my Pandora box station. Okay, here we go. So, there's a way to make this fun, but as a take action step, I want you to, let me repeat because I got long-winded there. I want you to define what you're working on the next time you sit down to write. I want you to give yourself a cue for it. 2 simple things. And your cue could be, I write the word, could be a certain kind of music, could be a certain place you write in. The cue is up to you, but make sure you define it and you give yourself some kind of cue. And when you find your mind wandering, when you find that you're losing focus, say your task out loud. It's so silly and simple sounding, but it's so effective. Like I'm going back and I'm starting to editing and I just say, nope, right now I'm drafting. Right now my job is drafting. Oh, okay. Just give yourself that quick redirect. And if you want support and help getting redirected, plus loving butt kicking that will keep you on track and help you regain your focus, come on and join us in the Author Boss Academy. We have weekly live coaching calls where you can dive deep into a question or issue. We have courses on every aspect of writing and marketing that breaks things down into one step and one type of thinking at a time. We have a tight-knit community with some really awesome people, and this is a place where dedicated writers help one another succeed and support each other. It's a no competition zone. It's a total support zone, and it's really inspiring. We have worksheets, master classes, and a whole lot of momentum. And you can join us for $39 a month. It's just a subscription program, and you can start getting the support you need right now. There's a link to learn more about the Academy, and you can sign up right in the comments. And remember, if you're watching this video somewhere else, if you're in the All Writers Welcome Facebook group, the All Writers Welcome Facebook group is closing. So come on over and join us in Author Like a Boss. We are inviting everybody to move. The reason we're moving is because we want to create a space that is more focused. We invite everybody to come join us, but we've moved so that we can offer you guys more high quality content that's easier to find and easier to use. So check out the pin post in the All Writers Welcome group, in the Author Like a Boss group to find out about upcoming topics so you know which lives you're most interested in. We're really excited to be telling you guys ahead of time what kind of content you can get. The other place you can find that is on our email list. If you go to allwriterswelcome.com/newsletter. All this month, I'm going to be talking about focus and building good writing habits. So next week, I'm going to be continuing with this theme and telling you how to set effective writing goals. Now that you've gotten clear about what takes away from your focus and what supports your focus, we'll talk about setting some goals. And in marketing this month, Ella is talking about building your author newsletter. Next month, I'm going to be talking about creating a killer central conflict. Ooh. And next month, Ella will be talking about how to engage your ideal readers on social media. I know that's another topic a lot of people put in there. What are your challenges around marketing? A lot of people talked about social media. So if that's you, make sure you check out Ella's trainings. And again, if you join our newsletter, you'll always know, you'll get a reminder about when those are coming up, but they will also always be in the pinned post. As we've been making this transition, a lot of people have been asking, hey, what about all the old videos? Well, fear not, all of the videos that are in Author Like a Boss and that are also in All Writers Welcome are on our YouTube channel. So you can join us on YouTube, you can subscribe there, and I'm going to put that link in so that you all can find it. And we even have some cool playlists, so you can find things by topic. And now I'm going to scroll back through and find some of your questions, because I know I didn't keep up with them as they went. So if you have a question at this time, I invite you to go ahead, put it in the comments. Even if you're watching the recording later, if you have a question, put it in, tag me so that I can come back and find your question and answer it. All right. Oh my goodness. Insane Clown Posse as your writing music. Mike, you crack me up. Okay. So let's see. I know there was one. Oh, okay, maybe not a question, but maybe like a suggestion. I love it too when you guys offer your best practices, the things that work for you. It's so helpful. So Mike said, I have a large number of detailed notes for each chapter that I then assemble into one place before I sit down to do that writer thing. So once I've assembled all the parts, I'm totally focused. I don't switch tasks from writing to editing until the text is done, though I fix the obvious as I go. Mike, my hat is off to you. In fact, I'm going to go wear a hat just so I can take it off to you. Because what you're doing is so powerful. You are giving your brain the clear message, brain, right now you're drafting. I'm going to give you a chance to come back later and fix anything that needs fixing. But trust me, brain, I've got all the tools lined up here for you. Everything is ready to go. And that's such a powerful message to send your brain. And that increases your chances of focus. Cecilia said, I usually start out thinking I'm going to either write or edit, but end up researching instead, or I stop because I think I need to do an outline, and I don't think I've ever succeeded in doing an outline. Oh, bummer. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm being attacked by a kitty. Hey, Cecilia, if you happened to be in a subscription academy where you could get help from coaches, this would be a great question to ask. If you want to take this up as a deep dive question, I'd love to talk more about outlines, and also, go, if you haven't had a chance already to go through some of the outlines in the academy, that might be a good place to start. But you bring up something that's so important, and that is, again, this idea that procrastination, multitasking, and anxiety are all linked. You guys, they are all connected. When we have anxiety about a certain project, doesn't have to be about writing, but when we have anxiety about a certain project, like, oh, I'm just not sure how to do that, our brain will first put it off. It's like, oh, that's the thing I don't know how to do. So we'll first put it off, we'll first procrastinate. And then when we start doing it, we'll constantly second guess, and we'll go, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, and end up multitasking. So Cecilia, you've done the first most important thing, which is to name it. And now it won't be able to sneak in and fly under the radar and give you a hard time, and you'll think you're, multitasking. You'll know, hey, wait, that's that's the doubt creeping in, or lack of confidence, whatever you call it. And so I know I've got to address things head on. If you're finding that you keep stopping with the drafting process, if there's one part of the process you find you keep not doing, it may mean you need some more tools, you need some more direction. So I would love to chat with you about outlining in the academy and see how we can get you feeling confident about what tools you have available to draft from. Okay. So, D, trying to correct grammar while writing. Yeah, you guys, I have rough draft rules. And my rough draft rules involve ignoring spelling and ignoring grammar and typos and punctuation and anything like that. And I need to remind myself of them periodically, but I highly recommend having for yourself rough draft rules. And that's basically, what am I not allowed to pay attention to when I'm drafting? Okay. I am only looking probably at part of the comments because this is open in 2 tabs. So if I've missed your question, I do apologize, but I will look back through all the comments and leave you responses. And again, if you have a question, if you're watching this later, please let me know by tagging me and putting me in the comments. And I hope we will see you guys in Author Like a Boss. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. I'm going to put that link in one more time if you want to find all of our videos in one handy dandy spot. All right, y'all. I will sign off, and I wish you very happy writing. Take care. Bye.